Hello, we're here tonight with Michael at Climb Center Central. Michael, tell me, how did this sport get started?
It was introduced, the origin is from the mountaineering sport. And one day they found out they couldn't get much further with the techniques they had then. And then somebody came with the idea to start using less and less equipment to get on top. And that's how the climbing sport got introduced to the world, I would say. And in Holland it started, I think, about 6 years ago when my employer started with the first large indoor climbing facility in Haarlem, very near here in Amsterdam. So.
Now, people come here to practice their climbing, and I notice there's a large number of different shapes. Could you talk about the origin of those a little bit?
Do you mean the shapes of the wall or the shapes of the holds?
Both, the shapes of the walls and the hole.
The shape of the wall is our own initiative, because we built this hall all ourselves with volunteer people, or they get paid for it, of course. But so the lookout, the designs we made ourselves, and the holes we use on the wall, those are designed by different kinds of people or small businesses. There are some climbers who, in their own time, to make a little bit more money, design their own holes. And some come from France. They have a special kind of architect who develops them. So they come from all different kind of places, the holes, and they're still in development. So you can see nowadays the holes are get more finger friendly. A couple of years ago there were a lot of holes with very small ridges, and they were very painful for the fingers. So they started redesigning the holes so they were less painful for the fingers and easier to get a grip on.
Now, what is the purpose of this place? I mean, does it serve for a practice site, or is it a sport unto itself?
It's a sport unto itself nowadays. Yes, I think it started because we don't have any rocks in Holland. A little bit in the south of Holland. But if you want to climb outside the real climbing, then you have to go to Belgium or Luxembourg, and that's a 4-hour drive. So I think it started creating facilities to train indoor when in Holland, and the weather is usually very rainy, so we needed something with a roof on top of it. And I think it grew into a sport on itself. And you can see in the last 3 years every large city in Holland has its own climbing facility. And I think it's at the moment the largest growing sport in Holland, next to maybe rollerblading in the summer. But this is a sport you can do all year round here. And you can see that a lot of the climbers go, when the weather is nice, they go to Belgium or Luxembourg, or a little bit further to France, or sometimes to Germany to climb. But it's a great way to keep in shape, and it's a fantastic sport. So.
Now, generally, I know this is categorizing people, but what kind of people really are interested in coming here and climbing?
All kinds of people. We have students, families who come climbing with their children. We have business people who come after work to climb. So there's no specific group of people who climb anymore. It's very diverse. And usually, what I think, they're good people. They're nice people. They're calm people. They're not show-offs or something. Climbing is something you do always with another person, because you have one climber and one person who has to belay, who has to hold on to the rope. But it's still a very individual sport, because when you're climbing with yourself, and it's a struggle against the wall or the route you're climbing at that moment. So it's a sport for everybody nowadays. That's very the nice thing about it.
Now, they climb pretty high here. Is there any danger here?
No, there's no danger at all. No, otherwise there would be too many accidents and people would stop stop climbing. So it's a completely safe sport, just as long as you use the right techniques and always be careful. So there's the accidents almost never happen. Sometimes when people are a little bit careless, then there can something can go wrong. But serious accidents haven't happened here in our climbing facility. So keep our fingers crossed.
So tell me, usually when a sport develops, along with it develop a whole series of kinds of specialized equipment. Has this happened in this sport?
Yes, of course the equipment was already there because it was used in mountaineering, expedition climbing in the Alps or in the Himalayas, wherever. And I think they kind of took that equipment and made it especially for this sport. So when I look at the harnesses in the mountaineering, they always use a harness with two parts. The one you put on like kind of like pants and a chest harness. And for the sport climbing, they got rid of the chest harness, and now it's only a sitting harness. And the other hardware, so the carabines and the ropes, those are all derived from the mountaineering sport and very specifically made nowadays for the climbing, indoor climbing and outdoor climbing. So.
Now this is a strenuous sport, I would say, from looking at the walls. Do women participate equally with men?
I think it's about 60% men, 40% women. Sometimes it's 50-50. So the beautiful thing about climbing is you don't have to be strong to climb. You have to be smart, because if you're smart, you can use your legs and the strength of your body instead of the strength in your arms. So all the climbing techniques are based on getting the strength out of your legs and out of your upper body to get to the top of a route, and not the very large muscles. Muscles are heavy, and you have to go vertical. So if you're very strong with lots of muscles, you're only going to get heavier, and it's going to get more and more difficult. And when you're at the point when the routes are getting more and more difficult, the holes get smaller and smaller, and then you don't have any need for strength, because you need technique to get to the top. So it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, everybody can climb. So.
And when people want to come out and climb, do they have to be in great shape to start with? Or?
No. We have easy routes, we have difficult routes, so for starters or for very advanced climbers, there are all kinds of possibilities. So we have a lot of people who come here for the first time, who want to try it out for a time, and that's no problem. So they get a small introduction where we explain how we work here in the climbing hall, and then especially focused on belaying, because belaying is the most important thing in climbing, because if you belay correctly, accidents can't happen. So everybody can come in and try it once, and you don't have to be in a great shape. And people have so much fun trying it, and it's always nice to see them come back again. So, and then a small percentile of people who try it once, you can see them coming back again and again. And then after a while, they have their own harness and their own climbing shoes. So it doesn't matter how you're built or whatever. Everybody can climb.
So I guess that leads me to my next question. If they come out and they don't have equipment, then that's something that is provided?
Yes, we have harnesses, we have carabines, we've got belaying. We use a figure-8 descender here for the belaying. So you don't need equipment to climb. We have everything here. Only there is always a price attached. So when people know they're going to continue with climbing, we always suggest they invest in their own equipment, because it saves them money, and it's much nicer to climb with your own material than if you have to rent it over here in the climbing facilities.
So if somebody comes out here, let's say tonight, how long do they usually spend climbing?
It kind of depends on. Usually an hour and a half, 2 hours for a beginner, and then are usually very tired. And because it's a very strenuous sport, you get tired very easily. And if you don't take a break from now and then, sometimes after an hour, somebody can be completely empty. And the more advanced climbers, because they climb more with technique and they can save strength and energy. We have people here climbing for 3 or 4 hours, and they just take small breaks after a couple of routes, so they can climb much longer than a beginner who still has is depending on his strength to climb instead of technique. So it kind of depends on if you're a beginner or a little bit more advanced. But usually when somebody comes here and has never climbed before, an hour and a half, 2 hours tops, and then they're usually very tired and can't climb anymore. So.
It almost always seems that when we develop a new sport, we also add the element of competition. Has that entered in?
Oh yes, of course. We have our national climbing competition. We used to have competitions specifically for one climbing hall, or a small competition between climbing halls. And at the moment it's namely the national competition, and then of course from the national competition the winners go, if they want to, can go to the European or international competitions.
So it's become an international competitive indoor climbing situation.
Only the difference between the professional climbers, which come namely from France and from America, of course, are a lot more experienced. In Holland, it's a small country, and we'll always have a problem with sponsoring. So 100% full-time climbers are very hard to find in Holland. They usually do something next to the climbing to make a little bit of a living, because you can't live on climbing alone in Holland. And that's the big difference, namely from Belgium and in France, because they have climbers who climb 8 hours a day and they're sponsored. And because they can train 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, they reach a much higher level in climbing than that's possible here in Holland. So the difference between national and international competition is still very large, and maybe it will change in the future when there are coming more and more climbers and it gets interesting for sponsoring. Maybe we can compete on a more even level in the international competitions. So we have to wait for that.
So Michael, if somebody wants to come out, what are your hours, and when are you open?
We're open during the week from 5 to 10:30. On Friday afternoons we open at 1 o'clock. And that's usually also our children's afternoon, because they have then reduced admittance. And in the weekends, on Saturday we open also at 1 o'clock, and on Sunday we open at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we close at 10:30.
So if somebody wants to come out and just try it out for one night and rent equipment and all from you, what would that cost them?
The admittance is $17.50, and then they can climb until closing time. If you want to rent a harness, that's another 5 guilders, and belaying material is $2.50. And if people want to, they can rent climbing shoes, and those would be another 5 guilders. So if they want to rent everything, they have to pay 30 guilders. And we have some special arrangement. If you buy what we call in Holland a strippen card, then you get 10 times admittance, and then you get a reduction of $2.50 per admittance. And also we have half year and 1 year cards. Those cost of course a little bit more, and then you can climb as many times as you want.
Well, Michael, thank you very much. I think we're going to walk around and maybe talk to some of the climbers and look it over. So thanks very much for taking the time to talk with us. Hello, we're here with Anika, who has just, as you saw, climbed up the side of this, I don't know, wooden mountain.
Yeah, it is.
And how did you first get interested in this sport, Anika?
Well, by friends. Friends climbed here and in other places. And I'm not really a very sportive type of girl, so I like to do it once in a while. And I felt when I was climbing, I didn't have any muscle pain afterwards. And it just exercised your whole body, not only your legs or your arms, but just completely. So that's what I like it. And it's exciting. It's fun to do. And it's not dangerous if you don't take risks. And you can do it outside and inside. So inside in the winter and here in Amsterdam. And we go to the Aken in Belgium sometimes in summer. And then it's even more fun.
And so you obviously invested in your own equipment and you're all ready to go, outdoors and indoors.
Yes, yes. But the equipment, well, if you go outdoors you need much more. You need a rope and that's expensive. But indoors, you buy once this equipment and you can do your whole life with it. Not with your shoes, but with the rest you can do. So it's not that expensive. It's just one big investment in first, and then you have it for a long while.
And how long have you been doing it?
Well, only for a year or a year and a half, I think. But I just had a child, so this is the second time I climb in 2 weeks. So I've been doing that, for 1.5 years, I think. But with a break of 5-6 months.
So you were climbing while you were pregnant then also?
Yeah, but only the 3.5 months. The first 3.5 months. After that you don't feel very safe because if something happens and you wear this thing, it's not comfortable. So I don't want to take any risks.
So friends introduced you to this, and have you introduced friends to this?
Yes, I have. Yes, it's fun. And it's a social thing because you can't do it alone. You can't go up alone. You always need somebody to secure you downstairs. So you always need somebody. So then it makes it easy to invite somebody. And one friend got very interested and he's been doing it for a lot now. He's really enthusiastic. That's nice.
And so you're going to continue now that you have a baby and everything, you'll continue right on with it?
Yes, I will. Yes, it's very good to work out, and I don't like to. I feel it a bit dangerous if you go really up mountain climbing, like big mountains, and I haven't done it yet, and I sometimes have my doubts. But here nothing can happen, because you are secured upstairs, so you can never fall. If you go up mountains and you are the first who climbs, you can make a big fall, or at least maybe 5 meters or 10 meters. So then it can be risky, but here it's not risky at all. So I continue. Yes, of course.
Very good. Thank you very much, Anika, for talking with us tonight.
Okay, you're welcome.